You know that plant you have sitting in the corner? Well, it might be doing a whole lot more than just looking good. We're going to dive into whether it's actually a secret weapon against indoor air pollution. And trust me, the science behind it is pretty fascinating.
Okay, get ready for this number. 90%. That is a huge chunk of our lives, right? And it's the amount of time most of us spend indoors. But here's the thing. That creates this invisible problem that we almost never think about.
So what's really floating around in the air we're breathing inside our own homes? You might think you're safe from outdoor smog, but guess what? The air inside can actually be way more polluted. We're talking about this invisible soup of chemicals. It's so serious, the World Health Organization actually lists it as one of the top 5 risks to our health. Wow.
Okay, so what are we supposed to do about it? Well, the answer might be sitting right there on your windowsill. I mean, we've all heard that houseplants can help clean the air, right? But is that just a nice idea, or can they actually be our green allies in this fight? Can they really make a difference?
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Not all plants are created equal. Some are just tougher than others. So how do we figure out which ones are the real champions, the heavyweights in the fight for clean air? Well, it turns out scientists have a way to do just that.
Yep, they've come up with a way to give each plant its very own pollution score. Let's break down how they do it. It's officially called the Air Pollution Tolerance Index, but let's just call it APTI. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a toughness score, or even a superhero rating for a plant. It boils everything down to one single number that tells you exactly how good it is at handling pollution. And yeah, the higher the score, the tougher the plant. So, what exactly makes up this score? How do they calculate it? Well, it all comes down to 4 key things they measure in the plant's leaves. All right, let's look under the hood at a plant's defense system. First up, ascorbic acid. That's basically its personal stress fighter. Then you've got total chlorophyll. Think of that as the engine, its power source. Number 3 is relative water content, which is like a hydration shield, helping it deal with tough conditions. And last but not least, the pH of the leaf, which acts as a neutralizer against nasty stuff in the air. You put those 4 things together and boom, you've got its fighting power.
So a new study put this to the test. Researchers grabbed 20 super common houseplants, ran all the tests, and calculated the APTI score for each one. They were on a mission to find the absolute best of the best.
And now for the big reveal. Which plants actually came out on top? Are you ready to meet the champions? Let's get to it. And here they are, the heavy hitters. Taking the top spot, the ZZ plant. And look at the rest of the list. I bet you recognize a few of these. We've got the snake plant, the money plant, dumb cane, and the Chinese evergreen. See how they all scored over 10? That's the magic number. It's the sign of a seriously tough plant. Okay, but let's be real for a second. Does a score of 10.21 versus, say, 8.7 really make that big of a difference? I mean, how much does that gap actually matter? Let's take a look. This really shows you what we're talking about. On the one hand, you have our champion, the ZZ plant. On the other, the flamingo flower, which was also in the study. The researchers found that plants like the flamingo flower just didn't have as much of that stress-fighting ascorbic acid or water content. So that gap you see, that's not just a number. It's a huge difference in their ability to actually survive and thrive when the air isn't great. Okay, so this is all great science, but what does it mean for you? Well, this is where it gets really practical. We can basically create a green air action plan for our own homes. It's not just about grabbing any old plant anymore, it's about choosing the right plant for the job. So what's the secret sauce for these winning plants? It really does all come back to those 4 things we talked about. The top performers just had more of the good stuff. More water to handle stress, more ascorbic acid to fight back, and a nicely balanced pH. It's like they're perfectly designed for the kind of air we find in cities. And this isn't just my opinion, you know. The scientists who did the study said it themselves. They literally recommended these plants for indoor landscaping in urban areas. We're talking about our apartments, our offices, everywhere we spend our time. So the takeaway here is pretty clear, right? The next time you're at a plant shop, it's not just about which one looks the prettiest. Now you know you can make a strategic choice, a choice backed by science, to pick a plant that's not just a decoration, but an active part of making your home healthier. So that leads to a pretty cool question, doesn't it? Could your next houseplant be your first, easiest step toward a healthier home? It kind of makes you look at that little green plant in the corner in a whole new light.